Hello again, everybody. You're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. I'm your host, Felipe, and with me, as always, is Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing this evening?
We are the champions.
Right.
Oh, can you guys hear that in the background? I'm sorry.
I think it's a copyright infringement. I have to
No.
mute you.
Oh, it was less than 7 seconds or whatever it is. You can't sue me.
I heard that was a myth, that it doesn't matter if you do 5, 7, 10 seconds. They can still sue you.
I hear 7 seconds is just fine all the time.
And members of 7 Seconds. It's a punk rock band. And
that's 30 seconds to Mars. Come on now.
No, I don't listen to that garbage, man.
I knew you'd call it garbage.
No, well, Garbage is another band. They're from, I forgot where they're from, but yeah, they're an actual band led by Shirley MacLaine. Anybody? 90s alternative? Come on. I know I'm older than a lot. I know I'm a lot older than you guys, but not that old. Come on. Well, the other person, the three-headed monster that we got going here is James Handaboat. James, how you doing this evening?
Yes, sir. I am everlastingly depressed.
Oh,
so I feel you, man.
That's the life of a Mets fan, James.
Life of a Mets fan and a guy who not only missed out by one game on breaking the league's record, but also missing out on the win of the championships, not even making it. So,
I told you before we went, when we hit the record button, welcome to the club. That's been the story of my life for like the last 3 seasons in this league. Congratulations, Sean. So now that would be 2 consecutive back-to-back teams in this league, which is, we have all these statistics to account for that kind of variance, and it turns out there is no variance at all. There is no what's that word I'm looking at? There's no parity. This isn't the NFL. Maybe it is the NFL. The NFL has the same dominant quarterback for like the last 20 years, and people like to pretend that it's anybody's year. No, you got Tom Brady. It's gonna win. Maybe it's the same thing here. It's either gonna be Aaron or Sean every year. It seems like.
Well, it's like, what was the stat for the NFL that the last 18 years or whatever, each Super Bowl featured one of 5 quarterbacks, and it was like Brady, Roethlisberger, Manning, Rodgers, and somebody. It was.
Both Mannings, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, absolute nonsense. I don't know. Like I never felt great about my team this year.
Yeah.
And I won another championship. And it's weird. And it's like, I look at my lineup and I'm like, okay, yeah. Like I had good guys, but I don't know. It was so weird compared to last year. Last year, I just knew, like, I had a gut feeling. I was like, okay, I think I can win this thing. This year, I never had that gut feeling. See, James, it seems, had that feeling. Yeah.
So just to humor you guys in the like 10 minutes that I have here in this, let's. Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Go ahead.
Show what this roster look like.
Yeah. You should be able to go.
All right. Let's see. Fantrax team roster right here. Okay. Let's just go through this. Right. Forget about these guys. Catching always sucks. All right.
Okay. You definitely punted catcher this year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I started the year with I had Dalton Varsho. Trading him definitely sucked, but at the same time, is it really that much better than like the next guy that you could just pick up?
No.
You know what I mean? Probably not. And for what I got, I'm pretty happy. But listen, Goldschmidt, Ketel Marte, like this guy was Drury. I picked up halfway through the year. Somebody dropped him because
it was me. I dropped them.
Oh, was you? Well,
Felipe, you just dropped good players. You should
You
should not do that.
You said that Brandon Drury wasn't that good. Well, the only reason I dropped him because I found out he wasn't vaccinated and he cost me.
I remember this. This is flashback to a previous episode.
And he cost me all 3 matchups that week. This one and then the other 2 leagues that I'm in. So I was so mad that I lost because this dumb fuck did not get vaccinated that I just dropped him in all my leagues and I never picked him up ever again. But I'm glad that James is just picking up my garbage here. Go ahead.
But the guy who's garbage with 28 home runs, 87 RBIs,
and 123 strikeouts. We thought exactly what he was.
That's funny because guess who won the strikeouts counter with our hitting stats? I'm pretty sure that was me. So who really had the strikeout problem?
Whoa! Ding, 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 ding! Back to the corners. Back to the corners.
Wait, strikeouts on what?
Hitting? Oh, in our hitting league, yes. Yeah. I started Drury against you, and you lost strikeouts, so I guess he wasn't the problem.
Yeah, it's been a weird league, weird year for me in terms of strikeouts. In the podcast league, I led in hitting strikeouts, which is weird because I take great pride in trying to balance the walks with the strikeouts, and then for some reason that wasn't the case. Although I'm now seeing, according to the Roto standings, I was second in walks And what would that be, Sean? I got 6 points for strikeouts. So what is that? I was in what, 7th place in strikeouts? Is that how it works?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Oh wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7th in strikeouts. Which usually I go toe with the walks from my hitters, and this year just no matter what I did, it's like the strikeouts were just out of control, like the inflation rates that are
Yeah,
we're witnessing.
Your lineup should have had some Stephen Kwan and Alejandro Kirk in it, man.
I did have Stephen Kwan.
Not for long enough.
Like a day or something.
But like strikeouts is the one stat I really just like. I was like, listen, everybody strikes out nowadays. It's like I lose it. Let me just win everything else. So,
everybody
like,
makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes.
Oh,
But
I
like-
just noticed I finished ahead of James in hitting strikeouts this year.
Well,
by
yeah,
a
in this
point.
year, but
Yeah,
not in our matchup.
So while
Yeah.
we're on the topic of walks and strikeouts this year, I would just like to point out I led the league in walks and I had the least amount of strikeouts.
Yeah.
There's something to say about good plate discipline breeds good hitting. Even though my team rostered Bo Bichette, who just like swings at freaking everything. But yeah, that's fun.
Okay, we'll just keep going through this quick while I have some time before I leave.
Go ahead.
But like Bogarts, Joey Meneses, I got when he like just came up, has had an amazing like finish of the season. I picked up Nico for the last week because you dropped him, Felipe, and I was just like, oh well.
Well, he was
Like,
hurt.
Yeah,
was
well, no, he wasn't hurt, but I picked him up.
Well, yeah, well, about damn time he got healthy, but he was hurt like for 2 weeks. I thought they were just going to sit him down because he wasn't anywhere close to coming back. So I'm like, you know what?
See,
I need healthy bodies out there. So
that's actually been like the saving grace of my season. Really, is picking people up. Well, not saving grace because I was in first place, but like that's something like one of the things that kept me in first was like picking people up that other people dropped because they didn't have room on their injured list. Like, like Nico Horner, one of them, right? I mean, he didn't really wind up having a great year, but Jesse Winker, I picked up. Like, he walked a lot this year. He just like did not hit. Like,
That was he batted like 220 or something.
yeah. He batted 219, but he had a 344 on base percentage.
There you go.
by the way,
but
James
yeah.
keeps bringing up our game this past week, this past week, right? Yeah, he beat me by 4 hitting strikeouts, but he only had 15 walks versus my 32 walks.
There you
I
go.
don't know, Sean.
That's my
last I
boy.
checked.
That's my boy Felipe.
Who won?
That's more to my characteristic there. But last I checked, a 0.556 walk per strikeout rate is better than a 0.2777 walk per strikeout ratio.
And you could use your lower pick next year to get another guy who walks a lot.
No, actually, you get that pick. You get that pick, brother.
All right.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
right.
You get the
I
lower
get closer
pick.
back-to-back picks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'll just snipe you like I snipe Sean every year. But yeah, this would be what, 3
How
consecutive
did that
years.
work out?
Well, I got the 30 wins last year, and then you got the 30 wins this year. But usually, no, I'm used to it by now. James, I'm used to it by now, man. I'm used to it by now. You know why? Because every year since we started on Fantrax for this keeper cycle, I've had to pick in the double-digit rounds every. I'm either
double-digit picks. Yeah.
Something like that. 10th. I'm either 10th or 11th every damn year. So I'm used to it by now, you know.
At least me and you won't be back to back this year.
No, now I got to deal with James and Henry. I
because I think we've been back to back every year, including the inaugural draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Aaron won the first year of Fantrax, and then me and you were, but we finished second and third. But we played in the third place game, or no, I wasn't it. I won the third place. I don't know.
Yeah. So
we'd have to go back and find it because didn't you lose to Aaron or to Jet? I don't know.
Lost to Aaron. Jet lost to Aaron.
So we must have been like 8th and 9th or 9th and 10th, something like that.
9th and 10th, I think. So I must have picked 10th again. So go ahead.
Yeah. But I mean, like, listen, at the end of the day, like, I'm happy about the team. I have a lot of great keepers. I traded for Ketel Marte this year. I had Goldschmidt. I had Bogarts already. Like, McNeil came back with fire this year. I have bets I traded for last year. Thanks, Aaron. And how's George Springer doing for you?
James DePoto. We got to remind everyone that this league the last 2 years has like a grand total of, I think, less than 10 trades, and James has made at least 5 or 6 of them.
Well, who was the deal with? It was Mookie Betts and George Springer. Were any other players involved in that one?
Yeah, but like they were not that relevant. Like I think like I still had Aaron Nola at the end of the year, like, and he was like one of the only like really good players I had. I still had Yelich. I still had Goldie. Like it was like peanuts. I'm pretty sure. Like it wasn't anything crazy. the main people were Springer for bets, and then like I had a couple extra players and than her. Like I think it was like a 4 for 2 or
And
something.
if you guys keep it going, I will pull up that trade.
Why would she do that though? I don't understand that.
We'll keep it going.
Maybe Sean will
he'll find
yes,
bring some clarity. Go ahead.
But a lot of like mid-season pickups here, but Adames, like I didn't really start him too much this year, but like I tried to start him as much as I could just because of the home runs. But like my average and like hits and strikeouts and everything were so high, like or low and high, like all year, like bad, like inconsistent. So it was hard to start him when he's batting 230, like a sub 300 on base percentage. But still a great player. Jeremy Pena I got earlier on in the year. He was good to like kind of split time with Pena a lot. With Adames a lot. Vaughn Grissom, I got him when he first came up. Great pickup. And thank you, Jacob. Homer pickup here, but he qualifies for MILB keeper, and I will be keeping him for next season. Brett Beatty. So now you didn't have room on your IR, but I did. So and then I had Starling Marte. He's been down for weeks, so big hurt right there for the playoffs for me. But he had a great season. And this is what made me win all of my games this year. My pitching, Max Fried, Kevin Gausman. These are just my weekly matchups here. But Carlos Rodon, Luis Castillo, Carrasco, Heaney, Montgomery, Morton. And then I didn't even move my relief pitchers like once this year. I had Bard and Doval start the year. I had Presley, but I traded him. It was Presley and Eduardo Escobar for Devin Williams, So I had Devin Williams.
I still don't get that trade either.
So
but he was a former Brewer.
Yeah, so James obviously had great pitching. Right before we went live, Felipe, we were actually looking at who had the lowest team ERA, and it was actually friend of the show, Mario Margola. And I'm like, okay, James had like a great pitching staff, and it was, I believe at 3.42. I came in right behind him. Mario Margola's team had a 3.02 ERA. This was like Dodgers-esque from real life. And it's like the names he had McClanahan, he had Strider, Urias, Kershaw, Gallen, Nola. And then speaking of Nola was involved in that Mookie Betts deal. It was George Springer. George Springer, Wade Miley, and Aaron Nola from James for Mookie Betts and Anthony DeSclafani. That was the deal.
But let's note that I was also like way losing at this point. So like I was looking for next year, and Springer was hurt like all season, got hurt several times after coming back. And like I don't need Aaron Nola at this point. Wade Miley was just like, he's not going to do anything next year. Like Nola could have been a keeper for me, to be honest, but it's like I'm getting Mookie Betts in return. Like,
and I'm sorry, this was done last year.
Right? That was last year in August.
Look at that.
And Aaron was I was saying Aaron was like trying to push. She needed pitching. She was competing. James wasn't. And
I think a week after that trade, Springer went down for the whole season or something like that.
Oh, George Springer getting hurt? No. Oh my God! It's not like I told Mets fans that for years.
Really quick, I just wanted to point out that I'm looking at the Roto standings and for both hitting and pitching. I forgot that they actually split this apart. Sean finished in first place. I finished in fourth. James finished in fifth. For pitching, I finished number 1. James finished number 3, and Sean finished number 6.
For pitching?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. 107.5 points for me, 104 for James. Actually, he was tied with Mario at 104 points. And then Mad Dog Madrigal, which is Sean's name, 92 points. 6th place.
I think like my team, like the thing was like my team was just like aggressively like slightly above average, if that makes sense, where it's like I had like really good players but like they were not consistent at the same times, and like I either won because of my hitting or I won because of my pitching. I never won because I covered a lot of like areas at the same time, you know what I mean?
It's always the goal. It's always the goal.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I had a lot of weeks where I won like 18-3 or like 17-5 or something like that, and most of it was just like because I heavily won one category and like tied a bunch in the other or something like that.
And I feel like that's the kind of the blowout matchups. I feel like it's a whole lot easier to do that with a great pitching rotation, like having the 5 really good starters that you had. I feel like, especially with the way we did biweekly, or the way that we do biweekly, it's like if all those guys get loaded up in one, like you can win in a blowout. It's just that next matchup where those guys are unavailable because they've already pitched.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of the closer ones that you're hoping to just kind of sneak out a win. But if like all of your guys, Rodon, Gossman, whatever, are going out in one of that like 3 or 4 day period, it's real easy to kind of blow somebody out with the pitching.
That was why I got a lot of luck this year, is because Fried, Gosman, and Rodon were pretty much always pitching in the same period.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were going against me that period, like you were just done. Like unless like somehow they all had bad starts. Like I and then the fact that I had like, Bard had like an amazing season. I mean, he barely had to pitch because the Rockies suck and they're never winning. But like I also had like Doval and like Williams at the same time. I didn't have to do anything with them all year. They always stayed in their spots. And then it was just like, what starters I could get. And I think like while I did have Fried, Gosman, Rodon, Castillo, like those are the guys that like really wrote it home. I also like got really lucky with Montgomery having a pretty great season for like, what people projected to be like barely like a 4th or 5th starter, like he had an amazing season. Carrasco, finished with almost a 4 ERA. I mean, he's not done yet. He has like 1 or 2 start, 1 start left.
1 start, yeah. He was supposed to pitch tonight.
Yeah, but I mean, he's just about at a 4 ERA right now, but under a 1 home runs per 9. He had a 3.7 K per BB. 15 wins, 11 quality starts, 148 innings. Like those like extra guys that it's like every other period that I needed to use. Like I still was competitive with pitching.
Yeah, like the guys like Morton and Carrasco, like they probably didn't give you the best rate stats, but they were going to give you 7-8 strikeouts at least, go like 5-6 innings, and at least just give you a shot in the other matchups where your aces weren't going.
Yeah, I mean, Morton ended the year 205 strikeouts.
Yeah.
And, he was in there a lot for me. So, like, who could say how much of an impact he really had on my team?
I think they said he's the oldest to get 200 strikeouts since Smoltz.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought he was done like 2 or 3 years ago, but now they've extended him for another year. The Braves did. So, go pick up Charlie Morton. You know what? Shame on me, Sean. I didn't practice what I preach. Older is always better with starting pitcher. I should have just followed that credo. Really quick, in the Roto standings, you're looking at the 3 people on the screen here. Top 3 Roto standings right here.
Really?
It's not a coincidence. Yeah. I finished in 1st. Sean finished in 2nd. James finished in 3rd. Another interesting stat: games played. I won that category. That's not a scoring category, but obviously there's something to be said about.
It helps with the counting stats.
It helps with the counting stats. I guess that maybe that's the reason why I finished number 1, because which is weird because I don't know. It was a weird season, I think. In terms of just hitters, number 1, games played among the hitters. If my computer would just cooperate. Number 1 over here, Aaron finished in 2nd. Among this panel, Sean finished in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th.
And that was games played.
Yeah. For hitters.
Okay.
And then James finished in 8th. And for pitchers, for games played,
I think I'm gonna be lower on that list.
Let's see. You're middle of the pack.
Oh, okay, middle of the pack. I'll take it.
Let me guess. Can I make a guess? Is Jet number 1?
For games played among pitchers?
Yes.
Nope.
Oh. Is he close to that number 1?
Jet, where the hell? Jet's bottom 4 in pitching.
Really? Half his team is relievers. How is that possible? Half his team is bullpen. Like I was just talking to Sean. I was like, Jet should name his team like the bullpen, because it's like half his pitching is like SPRP, and it's like.
Well, I mean, the 2 guys that were SPRP were both like starters, traditional starters, Perez and Stripling. Yeah.
Okay, but he did also have a lot of relievers. So.
Yeah, he and they were all good relievers too. I mean, Fairbanks, Minter, Presley, Graveman. Like, okay, Graveman was a little down this year, but still 3.2 ERA. He had a lot of great relievers. It's just he had Corbin Burns and Martin Perez, and that was about it.
All right,
and Chris Bassett.
I was looking at the wrong thing. Among hitters, he finished bottom 4. I finished second among hitters and games played. Sorry about that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You two, Sean and James, finished number 7 and number 8 respectively for hitting, games played. For pitching, I finished number 1. And then 2, 3, 4th is James. 6, 7, 8. 8th is Sean. And you asked about Jet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jet was 6th.
Who was first? Just to pique my curiosity.
For pitching, games
Yeah.
played. This guy right here, Felipe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so I guess the thing we all have to take away from this is play like Sean and just pick up a bunch of bench players that don't play.
I guess.
Well, I guess maybe that's what happens when you have all 3 Blue Jays catchers on your team at the same time.
Hey, my idea, especially when Danny Jansen started doing good and I already had Kirk, I said, wow, brain blast. I'll just play both of them. Because that was what Toronto was doing. And if you like combine their hitting stats, I mean, it's over 600.
One catcher.
I mean,
you get like 680 plate appearances of actual good offensive production. I mean, actually good.
I mean,
now,
like,
here's where it
honest,
gets...
let me say one quick, real quick.
Go ahead.
My catching strat for like 3 periods straight, because of how bad Trevino and Heim were both doing, was to pick up Mitch Garver, who literally was hurt and not playing, so that I could have someone who wasn't hurting my hitting stats in the pitching slot. Like, that's like, because it was like Heim and Trevino were getting no counting stats for me. And I was like, well, I'm not getting counting stats anyway. Might as well not hurt my rate stats either. And I just picked up a hurt catcher. So it's like having, 2 sides of the same coin, or 2 sides of a catching matchup for a team is not that bad. Like, it's pretty smart, honestly.
Well, I was gonna say really quick. So I led the league in innings in games played. About innings pitched, it gets interesting. Where Mike Harvey from Eastern Washington, he led the league in innings pitched, and that's a scoring category. So that's pretty important. And he won by
innings pitch wasn't a category, was it?
Yes, it was.
It just recorded. I thought. That
was last
okay.
year. This year we decided to count.
Oh, okay.
We talked about it, so we would circumvent the people who were relying on relief pitching. Remember, we had a whole conversation this past offseason.
Yeah, I remember it now. But when you go and you look at his roster, it makes sense. Darvish went deep in a lot of games. Lance Lynn was still Lance Lynn, even though he made 15 starts. Adam Wainwright went deep in a lot of games. Garrett Cole, Marco Gonzalez, all these guys that tend to go pretty deep in games. He also had George Kirby and Logan Gilbert. We need to figure out how to spread out, because I feel like all the pitching is consolidated on about 4 teams, and I need some of their pitching. But you can't have any of my good hitters. I give you garbage. You give me Garrett Cole.
And I'm sorry, James, what were you saying?
Well, I was saying at the same time, while we do have 9 keepers, you have to also realize that because those 4 teams have all the pitching, that means that there's actually going to be a lot of pitching next year, because you can't keep everyone.
That's right. That's right. And why would you? You can't trust these pitchers, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was, when I looked at my keepers, I'm not going to say the names because it's going to give other people strats, but what's it called? I have 5 hitters and then 2 pitchers, and then I'm trying to decide what I want to do with the other 2. I might use them on pitchers, but at the same time, it's I might have hitters that are worth more than that, but so I just have so many guys that I could keep at the same time for pitchers that it's just hung. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the strategy is for next year. I don't know. This year pitching left such a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't trust them coming into the season, and for the first time in my life, I just counted on just streaming. I stream more than Netflix this year, more than Hulu, more than HBO Max, all those guys. I just streamed and streamed. I didn't have a bona fide ace. I mean, unless you count Framber Valdez.
Yeah, he was a stud.
I love them this year. The thing that sucks about him is that he pitches once every 6 games or 6 days or whatever the case is, because of the Astros. And so you don't even get the opportunities, or I didn't get the opportunity. I should speak for myself. I didn't get the opportunities to get him pitching twice in 1 week because of that fact. But he helped me in win the podcast league, and and he was a godsend in this league. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of studs like you guys did. I was counting on just matchups. So if Lucas Giolito's broken ass faced the Detroit Tigers, then I'm starting him. But against everybody else, I'm like, he's supposed to be an ace. He's not playing like when I'm going to bench him, even though he was a keeper of mine. But I learned my lesson. So no, but it's going to be difficult. I mean, I have Joe Musgrove, but do I really want to go through another year of Joe Musgrove's inconsistent, pseudo-like?
Hey, please don't keep him. I'll take him if you don't keep him.
I'm not. You can take him. I might just keep another hitter. I might just go 9 hitters. I'm not. I haven't decided yet, but I might just go 9 hitters for next season.
You talked about streaming, and it's like a weird thing that this year it's like I streamed not as much as last year in terms of starting pitching. When I got guys, like it was normally not for just one start. Like I kept them around like for several weeks, but hitting, I streamed a lot of hitters this year because I liked my hitting lineup, but I would look at the numbers every week, and it's like I have Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Jose Ramirez. But like the overall numbers, Jose Ramirez kind of went dark for a little bit, and that's why at the last period, like in the playoffs, in the finals against Henry, I have guys like Vinny Pasquantino starting at first base, Brendan Donovan, Sean Bouchard from Colorado. All of these guys were Elvis Andrus, who 8 stolen bases in the month of September. I got all of them, and he had 5 home runs. Like, I don't know what the hell got into Elvis Andrus, or three or 5 home runs, something like that. But
the White Sox to the glory, man.
I really like Christian Walker, who was probably the only guy, like he stayed in my lineup for a long time. And I didn't have him the first couple of months where he was really hitting the ball well, but like he was batting like 200 or under 200.
Yeah.
And then I had his 2 hot months, but in September he was gone. Like he just stopped hitting again. And so like I relied on a lot of younger, unproven guys, Pasquantino, Donovan, who were really good. I mean, Pasquantino walked more than he struck out. For me, Brendan Donovan, 50 walks, 62 strikeouts. So it was like weird that I streamed like this one type of very young, disciplined hitter. And it was just very weird because normally it's like, oh, I got to stream this pitcher. But for me, it felt more like hitting was the spot to find. And pitching was always so scarce in this league, like compared to several of my other leagues. I felt like it was.
It was at the end. It was at the end, but I just kept finding streaming options. I hate to keep harking back at that, and but I just kept. It was just easier for me to just stream. Like I was starting Jose Quintana against the Cubs just because I think the Cubs just suck, even though Cub fans tell me otherwise. But yeah, Jose Quintana against the Reds, or that's just an example. I mean, who else? Matt Manning against the Royals, for example. Yeah, if you're facing the Royals or Tigers, you might have a 1.6 whip, but you are starting for my team, damn it. And I would get some decent results out of it because of it. But one thing, and I'll cede the floor back to James, because I think he was going to mention something. But guys, this year, I didn't have any backup first baseman or third baseman, unless you count Bobby Witt as a backup third baseman. But he was better suited for middle infield. And that is just to say that there was no way in hell I was ever gonna bench Vladimir Guerrero or Rafael Devers, even though there was a time span this past season where I may have been better off just doing so. But James, what's your take on that? I mean, would you see yourself? I mean, you ended up winning 30 wins this season. I mean, for some good reason, but was part of your strategy was also to stream your studs from period to period throughout the year?
Yeah. So
really?
Like, I will say I was very lucky to not have to stream a lot of positions. I mean, for the most part, my outfield was pretty stacked most of the year. If I were to call out a couple of key positions, you're gonna laugh at me because it's like funny to think like how I had trouble finding someone at this position, but left field was really tough for me for a lot of the year. And the only time it wasn't tough for me was when Ketel Marte was not sucking ass and I could start him at second base and put McNeil in left field. That was like, because other than that, like the streaming, like third base, I felt like the Mets. I had 40 different people start at third base for me this year. Like
Wow.
Mets circa like 2018, 2019, where we had like
Jose Reyes, Todd Frazier, JD Davis.
Yeah, like I had a different guy at third base every period, basically. And it's just like the problem is like I think next year, like I'll give a little tidbit of my strategy maybe, is like I'm gonna look at like those key positions that I feel like were really rough to look for this year and like try to see like who's probably going to get kept, and then like maybe keep an eye out for those people at those positions, because it's like I think streaming is a legit. Sean just said he streamed a lot for hitting this year and he won. So what does that say? You can stream as long as like you do it correctly and you do it at positions that can be streamed properly. Drafting Yohan Moncada was probably one of my biggest mistakes, and it's not even like I could have seen it. Like I didn't expect him to be an all-star, but being hurt for 50% of the season and then batting sub 200 whenever he did come back, like could I have seen that? Probably not. Like, and that screwed me horribly because I had a different person at third base every week, and that's such a hard position to look for in a league where there's a couple of like really big guys at third base and then a bunch of like fucking nobodies that might have a hot week and you have to catch them early, so it was really tough. I mean, I like just find those positions that you are willing to possibly stream, and then make sure you zero in on the ones that are really impossible to stream for. Really is the big thing. Like no. It has a lot to do with your keepers too. Maybe you might, if you're looking at like maybe keeping a third baseman versus keeping like a second baseman, or like maybe a right fielder. And if they're close enough in stats, you might want to keep the third baseman over the right fielder, because right field might be a lot easier to look for late in the year. You know what I mean? So,
and it's funny you mentioned outfield because I had Juan Soto, and somewhere along the line I open up my eyes. Yeah, right. Juan Soto, he sucks, man. He's awful, overrated. Bum. Can't win me championships in this fucking league. No, but I look around, I wake up, it's September, and like, what happened to my damn outfield? I know Luis Robert was hurt, but I look around, wait, why am I counting on a bunch of waiver wire fodder to get me through at outfield position, which is really weird. And honestly, I cannot remember who I drafted to put me in this predicament, but I think I've drafted Marcell Ozuna. And again, I was counting on Luis Robert, but the fact that I didn't, I don't know where all my I mean, maybe that was the problem. I focused so much on streaming pitchers that I didn't take care of the much needed depth that I needed to get my hitting from point A to point B. And before I knew it, I was counting on anybody named Jake, basically. Jake
yeah,
Fraley,
I was just gonna say that in the last week. You had your starting outfielder was Juan Soto, Jake Fraley, Jake McCarthy, and then for the last three the weekend period, you put in Oswaldo Cabrera. Wow.
Yeah. He was on fire, and then of course I every time I pick him up and then I insert him in the lineup, he does nothing for me. So. That's what I got for trusting the Yankees. Really quick, just to finish the innings pitch. That's where we started. We started with innings pitch. Mike Harvey was number one. Oh, because then we started talking about keepers for next year. Okay. Andrew O'Sullivan was number two. The champ right there. Sean, number three. I was number four. And then James was seventh place in innings pitch.
Wow, that's actually really surprising. What they kind of
very surprising. That's why I brought it up. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned all the big names you had in your starting pitching, and you still finished seventh place in innings pitch. I mean, what do you account for that? Because I want to say, let me just look at the other stats here. Let's go back up here.
Well, what I will say probably though is that some of my pitchers were a little bit on the older side, especially my second string.
Older's better. Older's better.
Yeah, but it's older's better for counting stats or maybe for rate stats, but for innings pitched, like I had Charlie Morton only finished with 172 innings pitched. I mean, my relievers too, like Daniel Bard really didn't pitch that much. For a reliever, really, like 59 innings is not a lot. Camilo Doval, part of that, like Giants like bullpen like monster that they have over there, but they don't know who can save and who's gonna close that night and who's not. Like 67, which is on a higher side but not crazy. Devin Williams 60, and then like Luis Castillo, struggled a lot during the year. He only finished 150 innings pitched. But yeah, I mean, so for the most part, yeah, Carrasco too hurt a lot, 148. Andrew Heaney, I mean, I picked up late in the year. He replaced Kyle Gibson, which once again, old fuck, didn't really pitch that too long. And then Carlos Rodon only 178. My highest innings pitch was Max Fried with 180. So,
wow.
A lot of injuries, I would say.
It turned. I'm looking at the standings, the pitching standings, and it looks like what you lacked in effectiveness and the counting stats, like you mentioned, you more than made up for it in efficiency. I mean, you're up there in K per strikeout per walk ratio, on base percentage, and that may have something to do with your bullpen. I don't know who your bullpen was, but the fact that you finished low in the innings pitch, but you still were able to get a lot of strikeouts speaks volumes for your team. But you didn't get a lot of quality starts. You didn't get a lot of wins. I mean, you did, but compared to everybody else, it's on the lower side. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird that there is something to be said about some sort of efficiency thing that you had going this year, but it didn't amount to a lot of those big counting stats like you mentioned, like the wins, the quality starts. So yeah, it's just interesting how little things like that just shape how the rest of the season is going to go for a lot of these guys and who are trying to try their best to make, like we mentioned, Sean, I think you mentioned it earlier, that pitching is so weak this year. And I always mention that I don't trust any of these guys, any of these starting pitchers, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting that we all had different strategies and we had different results, mostly positive, but different results nonetheless.
Yeah.
I feel like my luck's gonna run out in terms of pitching. And like
shut
I
up
like
over there.
no, like I
My
said,
luck's
like,
gonna run out.
no, like last year, like Robbie Ray was the last pick of the draft for me, and he goes and wins the Cy Young. I chose not to keep him, which I think was a good thing and a bad thing. And then this year, it was my first overall pick, but it was after, how many keepers did we have? 6. So it was basically it was basically the 7th round, and I picked Dylan Cease, and then Dylan Cease ends up being like my ace, and then Alek Manoah I think was my 2nd or 3rd round. I think I picked them back to back. Was Cease and Manoah. And they both had sub-3 ERAs. They both pitched deep in the games. And it's like, obviously I could keep both, likely will, but it's like, I feel like I'm 2 years in a row I've gotten pitching out in positions in the draft that I likely and I didn't expect it. Like I picked them for the upside, but I didn't expect either of the game. Seriously,
this humble brag over here. This guy all off season, James, was downplaying Dylan Cease, was poo-pooing him, was not.
I hate the command.
We all hate the command, but we all love the upside, right? But you were just so down on him, and I go, well, I know he likes Emmanuel Clase, and I know he doesn't really like Cease.
I knew you knew I was probably going to go back-to-back closer too, because I had talked about it. I said, like, just on a goof, like, what if I pick back-to-back closers here? Because I had no relief pitching.
I know we both like Clase, so like, maybe I can get both Clase and Cease, and of course that didn't happen. And who knows? Maybe with Cease on board, maybe results are different, and maybe I don't have to trust on so many streaming options. But this guy right here talking about my luck's about to run out. Okay, Daniel Espino, Bobby Miller, and Yuri Perez. I'm not sure who Andrew Painter is, so I'm not gonna. Andrew Painter as well.
Yeah, top 100. He's the best pitching prospect in the Philly system. Like
my luck's about to run out. He said, "My luck's about to run out."
They probably won't even debut knowing my luck. Okay, my luck that I've won 2 years in a row.
Yeah. So you admit that it's all luck based, huh? Okay.
Obviously.
Clearly. Well, James, I know we said 10 minutes, and I guess we had you for the entirety of the show. I know Sean wants to get going soon. Before we let you go, up to you if you want to stay here a little longer. At this point, it's up to you. But any final words as to this season and maybe possibly for next year before the end of the night here?
Well, yeah, I was actually gonna send the message. I might have to cut out in a sec.
Go ahead.
Stuff, but
sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I would say, like, looking at, I'm not gonna try to gas myself or anything like that, but I did finish first for a regular season. I would say like my main strat this year is like I have like a couple key points, like maybe like 3, like real quick, right? Like number 1, like pay attention to the waiver wire, pay attention to the trends. So like the trends is like, who's getting added the most, who's getting dropped the most, whatever, right? Not only looking at that for like the free agent pool, but also your own team too, because sometimes you might be like, oh, this guy had like 5 hits this week, but then they're all like singles, and then he struck out 8 times, but it looks good to you when you look at your live scoring or something, you know what I mean? And you might not notice it. All of a sudden, like 18% of people drop that guy, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I should do that too, like.
Honestly, you succumb to peer pressure?
Not necessarily, but I will say it did help me make a lot of roster choices this year. Identify key positions during the draft, and then like maybe like my number 3, like my last point: do not be afraid to trade. Like,
says James Dipoto. He's just looking for trade partners, guys. This is just an open advertisement to trade with them.
But think about it this year. Since I joined the league, like my record has gotten better every year, and the guys that I've traded for, they wound up being keepers. Like You think I could have drafted Goldschmidt, Ketel Marte, like Mookie Betts, like Max Fried, all of these people in the same draft? No.
Was
fucking way.
Goldschmidt a keeper for you last year?
Goldschmidt was one of the only people that I drafted and kept myself.
Okay.
Yes. Yelich was another one, but I traded him.
I remember the Yelich
in
trade.
a trade for Rodon. Yes.
Yeah.
So and I got like several keeper level players by just not being afraid to trade. Like, you got to be okay with I think the main thing is you just don't be afraid to get rid of your players, even if they're good, like, because you might just get someone else that makes more sense. Identify your weaknesses and your strengths, and then use that to trade. And honestly, you'll wind up with a way better team in the end. So
yeah, the thing about this league, it's always been a mystery to me, and it's the lack of trades, despite the fact that we open it up for off-season trading. We open it up to trade draft picks to improve your team. And I don't know what it is as to maybe it is as simple as maybe they're too afraid to trade, or maybe it's just as simple as people not wanting to waste time trying to trade. Or as I talked to Sean, maybe it's just the fact that our rosters are so big that, we have a team within a team with all the bench spots. So we might change a couple of things for 2024 when we start over again. We're still talking about some possible rule changes to encourage the trades, because you're right. I mean, trades are, whether we like it or not. I mean, I know I hate making trades, but as I told Sean in my points league, I made like 2,500 trades in my points league just trying to make a
blowing up your
effort.
team that ended up turning into a bounce back.
August, September, and I still missed the playoffs. But now I have 5 really good keepers in that league, I feel like. But yeah, trades should be happening more, I feel, even in a league as with the big rosters like we do. And it's just kind of crazy that it's the same people making trades while everybody else just kind of sits on the sidelines and not making anything. So I excellent point there. I encourage everybody to trade. If you're in this league, that's what it's for. We don't have many restrictions. No one's going to decline or object to your trades. I think everybody knows that we're out to what's that word I'm looking for? We're out here to get blood or whatever.
I think the main thing, it just comes down to fear of like your player going somewhere and being better than they were for you, or someone else winning with that player. But it's like, listen, who gives a fuck? Like, I traded J-Rod in a trade that got me like several 8 all-star players back. Yeah, I would have fucking loved having J-Rod on my team, but I also had like Mookie Betts and like Ed Starling Marte both having like great years and everything. It's like, do I really need another center field right fielder just because it's like J-Rod when I could get something else like Carlos Rodon in return? No, I don't. You know what I mean? And it wound up working out really well for me. My pitching was amazing. So I'll leave it there.
That's another good point. It's just like Band-Aid or like short-term memory, like the same kind of concept we expect from our NFL cornerbacks. Just forget about the last play. Yeah, you got blown up for 50 yards, but go get the next play. Move on to the next play. Move on to the next play, really. And it's basically my mindset when I make a trade, or when I drop a player. Just drop them. I forget about them. I got to move on. I got to continue. I got to move forward.
Effectively trading them to me.
Or, you picking up my sloppy second and thirds, whatever. But yeah, you just kind of have to forget it. You can't keep everybody. You got to make big boy decisions and live with them. So yeah, even the trades I make, I forget who I gave up and who I got back sometimes. Not in one particular trade, though, where I ended up having to trade away Jared Kalenic and Sean, who were the other guys that were involved? See, I talk about not forgetting and then I forget.
Austin Martin was the one. But yeah, it was Luis Robert and Jared Kalenic, Austin Martin. I can't remember the other. Yeah, Nick Senzel. That's what it was.
Wow, and I ended up winning that trade.
Central.
No, hey, Luis Robert, come on now. He just has to stay healthy. The opposite of I don't know. I can't think right now. I was gonna say the opposite of Byron Buxton, but he got hurt too.
Yeah.
And then Julio Rodriguez also got hurt. So, hey, listen, if you're an athletic center fielder, you're going to get hurt. Ronald Acuna, you're going to get hurt. No, but these are all interesting concepts and points that you're making here, James, and I could see why you are up to my level at this point, finally. No, he said, hey, listen, he said he was improving
up to and above in terms of rank.
I've been here the whole time.
Up to and above in terms of head-to-head and results and yeah.
Welcome to the 30 win club. I'm really proud of you. Maybe one of us will get we'll switch positions. Maybe I'll get the 30 wins, you get the 27 wins, and I'll lose in the final, as I am prone to do here in this league.
Yeah,
Go
that'll be
ahead.
my final message. I'll leave you guys on that.
No, these
There you go.
no, these are very good points, James. I'm really glad that you said it and pointed them out, because if I say it, then I'm just I'm just the asshole who says a lot of things and doesn't do anything. But
And I'm James Sapoto.
James the Poto over here. So, all right. Well, hey, listen, man, thank you so much. I know, like I said, 5-10 minutes. I'm so glad that we were able to talk for the extended period of time. As I really got, we all three of us, we got really into this talk about this crazy 2022 season that was the Fantrax Baseball Life League. Who knew that Henry was going to make the championship? Because remember, Sean, I told you there were times where Henry looked like he was, what do you call it? He had a winning record, like a really good record, but really bad roto standings.
Yeah.
At one time, and then a month or two later, roto standings were really up there, but then his record was really down here. I think he was like gonna miss the playoffs at the rate he was going, and somewhere along the line it kind of evened out, and he made it to the final there. And who did he beat James, right? No, I honestly forgot.
No. But and you see, the thing when I look at his is it looks like one of those teams that, like, in real life, you say, okay, over 162, they probably win like 95 games.
Really quick, James, I'm sorry if you gotta go. Just thank you so much for joining us. I don't want to keep you too long here as Sean and I wrap up here. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and I bid you a good night. Good luck next year.
Yeah, for sure,
everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
So
but no, it's like,
there,
you look at his lineup and there's like so much power. I mean, like, Javier Baez only had 16 home runs, but we obviously know what he's capable of. Riley, 38 home runs, Lindor 25, Hoskins 30, Correa 22, down year for him. Springer 25 in limited time, Stanton 30. Like, he had a lot of power. It seemed like a very streaky offense, and I think that ended up being the ultimate undoing. There was a point in our championship matchup that Stanton was 0 for 13 with 9 strikeouts, and Bohm was like 3 for 20. Canna has been in an awful slump. It was just like everything kind of hit at the wrong time for him, and my team just kind of had their best, I think, offensive performance of the entire playoffs. And look, me and James, before we even were live, he was a little frustrated, but obviously came on the show. Great sport, great addition, great addition to our league. He's one of the rosters that I'm a little worried about going into next year, just because he does have such a balanced core of both pitching and hitting. But this year, like, I had 9 stolen bases in the playoffs, or in the finals matchup, and it's like I don't think I had 9. I don't think I had maybe even 6 stolen bases in a period all year, and to get 9 and the finals, it kind of, at that point, I think I had 6 on Thursday, and I'm like, okay, maybe there is a chance. And then my offensive stats were really good. But yeah, the pitching wise, I was a little worried there. I had some blow up starts from both Cease. Bradish gave up like 7 runs, and I was a little worried that Henry was going to make it a game with on the pitching side, as he got, pretty good starts from guys like, Snell and Jordan Lyles. Jack Flaherty had a good start, but just a little bit too much too late. Because like offensively, it's like Stanton 2 for 17, Bohm 3 for 28, Canna 3 for 19. And it's like, it seems like these are a lot of guys that were just streaky. And I think that kind of explains how you mentioned he was probably really good in Roto, but had a poor record, or he was poor in Roto, but had a great record, just because it was, the matchups, he would do really great for a full week, which was 2 periods, but then he'd be bad for like 2. And it finally probably balanced out. And because me and him, I think we tied. We had the same regular season record. But it was kind of like one of those all or nothing. Like, I don't want to say all or nothing, but just the heavy teams that have a higher floor or a higher ceiling, but a lower floor.
Mm-hmm. Well, here it is, man. He did end up finishing 9th in roto standings, but 6th overall.
Yeah.
And obviously he made it all the way to the championship game. In terms of hitting, let's see where he ended up in. Hitting, he was second in hitting. Yeah, I mean, he had a really good lineup this year. I'll give him that. And then I think the pitching is where it messed up. Oh yeah, 12th dead last in pitching. So the other thing you mentioned was, so that's Henry's team. So Henry finished second in hitting, a little dead last in pitching. So that is something that he needs to shore up for next season. The one thing you mentioned as well, I'm afraid of James's team. I'll give you the, saving grace for everybody. People, when I would tell people about my lineup for from last year coming into this season, they were amazed as I was able to get, all these big names, all these big bats and whatever. And you saw that just as my big concern was, well, there's a chance that regression is going to be a pain in my ass this year. And I don't know if it's regression of individual play or if it's just a league-wide issue going on. I think the only, aside from Paul Goldschmidt, Jordan Alvarez, and Aaron Judge, those three guys are always at the top of the leaderboards. But it seems like a lot of hitters took a step back this past season of 2022.
Yeah, so. And I noticed that this year, and especially like when you look where like compare WRC plus kind of off topic of this year to last year and see what those guys' OPS were, just because the league average was so low that a guy could have had a good season, and that good season that he had this year 2 years ago would have been like a 110, 115 WRC plus, and this year it's like a 130 or a 120, not like high 120s. Yeah. And
it was still good.
Yeah, it was still good. And it just seemed like it was the way it affected some hitters and not others. I still don't. I think there's a little bit of variance in the balls that were used. Obviously, we know there were multiple balls used this year. I don't know how random or not random the usage of that was, but it obviously there was a depressed offense for most of, the first 3.5 months this year. But it's like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who obviously was great last year and is a huge vital part of your team going forward. I mean, he had an 816 OPS this year. I mean, he hit 32 home runs. He's just shy of 100 RBIs. But like last year he had 1,000 OPS. So is he one of those guys that just got affected by it? But it's like you look at the batted ball metrics, and he's kind of up there with like the Judges and the Devers. Like he smacks the shit out of the ball, and more ground balls than some of the other guys. But I don't know. It was a very weird offensive environment, and I think that's what led to me possibly streaming as much as I did. Because you had guys that you expected more out of, and then the guys that you didn't expect much out of maybe were less affected by it because they weren't the fly ball guys. They were more just line drive, get it in the gaps, and use your wheels. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing to break down and analyze, and I'm sure there'll be some really good articles this year in the offseason, like super in depth, that I'm kind of looking forward to reading about the balls and how, everyone gets excited about reading about balls, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Super balls, bouncy balls, testy balls. But no, it's pretty interesting that you mentioned all of that, because I'm looking at my team right now and it's like, I mean, who do I bench? I'm not benching Guerrero. I'm not benching Devers. No. But I was more than happy. I mean, I told you I was more than happy to bench some of my pitchers. Everybody except for Framber Valdez is up there, and he's starting. I am starting him every damn game. I don't care. Everybody else, if you're not facing the Tigers, the Royals, or the Rockies, I'm like, you're being benched. I don't trust you. And I had a couple of Rays players as well. Corey Kluber, Drew Rasmussen, guys like that. And you know how good the Rays pitchers are. But if they're facing the Yankees, I had to hesitate. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to deal with that right now. But I think the biggest disappointment, the reason why I had to stream so much, was because the three Twins players, the triplets, so to speak, Sonny Gray, Bailey Over, Joe Ryan. I was really counting on those guys to really take me from here to up here in terms of my pitching staff. Really let me down, because not that they were ineffective, I mean, which they were from time to time, they were. Yeah. And then there were other times they would show flashes, but the big killer for me was they were hurt a lot this year, a lot. And so now you're going from just looking not just for one, but three replacement pitchers. And you mentioned it in the waiver wire that we have with our roster size being so big. I think that's part of the reason why I had to depend so much on streaming the pitchers and just going with that strategy as opposed to making sure that I had depth in my hitters. And it was just a frustrating year. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I understand. Vladimir Guerrero on base percentage 337.
Yeah.
But am I really going to bench him ever?
No.
I don't think so. I can't do it. Can't do it. I'll more than willing to play musical chairs everywhere else at middle infield. I'm fine with that. But you know, I didn't do as much musical chairs in terms of the waiver wire. I pretty much had the same guys, even Nico Horner for a long time until he got hurt. I know James was bragging about picking him up, but if he would have stayed healthy, he still would have been on my team, and maybe a guy I would consider for next season as well. But yeah, it was a very frustrating year, Sean, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You can't get a handle on this. And I think we a lot of people share this thought, and I'm pretty sure you agree with this. I wish you just stop messing with the balls and just pick one and just go with it. You're already, you're not allowing these guys to be juicing. You're not allowing these guys to use amphetamines. You're not allowing these guys to use the sticky stuff that they're not supposed to use anymore. Pine tar is out of the question. A lot of restrictions. You saw this past year. You're not even allowed to touch your own hair because of all sorts of speculation that might be happening. So stop messing with the ball. Just pick a damn ball and go with it. But obviously, Major League Baseball is always going to mess with the ball. But I digress. Anyway, so Champ, any last words from you before I let you go?
Three-peat next year?
Fuck you. That's what I'm gonna say. My luck's about to run out with pitching, and then like 20 minutes later, three-peat.
Yeah, hey, you know, just gotta, you know, the power of positive thought and energy, right? Yeah, good vibes only.
Vibe this.
Seize this, honkus.
I'm excited for next year. I'm hoping that there's a bounce back. I'm glad that we finally established what is considered a minor league slot player and what's not. So that's a step in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to that. But I like my minor league players going into next season. I think the time has come for me to give up on Kyle Muller. I think that experiment is over with. He had a pretty good season in AAA. That's all I'm saying. That's why I kind of like, you know, we tried going for the pedigree guys, and those guys failed. So I figure might as well go for the guys who produce in AAA, and that too has failed. So I can't win with these pitchers. But other than that, like I said, looking forward to next year. 9 keepers. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys strategize for that. And until then, I am Felipe. That is Sean, your 2022 Fantrax League Baseball Life Champion of the world. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much, guys. See you next week.